There were 84 million views of the sacred Riana's AGT audition. It was darker than what the cameras captured. The television went entirely black during her performance in the quarterfinals. Around her, staff members murmured about odd mishaps and equipment malfunctions. Some people wouldn't go into the rooms where she practiced. When the last person to address her by her given name passed away in 2023, her entire world fell apart. She completely collapsed and disappeared from the public eye. The startling reality of what fame had truly cost her was made clear by her 2024 poi for return. The sacred Riana, whose real name is Marie Antoinette Riana Grajarani, was born in Jakarta, Indonesia, on July 13, 1992. Her life was not typical from the minute she opened her eyes. Krishyandi Yuniarto, her father, was not your typical magician. Psychological illusions were his specialty. Applause was not his magic. It was meant to make people uneasy and make them wonder what was true. Growing up, Riana seen Dad transform ordinary rooms into places where quiet felt oppressive and shadows seemed alive. Every day, illusion and reality merged all around her. This bizarre realm was further fostered by Jakarta's rich traditions of mysticism and ghost stories. She was a living ghost story by the time she made her television debut. She combined psychological illusion, her father's gloomy art, and Indonesian culture in a disturbing way. A horror movie titled The Sacred Riana Beginning was released in 2019. Envisioned a made-up childhood that was just as unsettling as her actual one. Her family owned a funeral home in a little town in that story. Her dad was a coffin builder. Her mother got the corpses ready for burial. Little Riana was surrounded by death every single day. She wasn't afraid, though. As if she knew the dead better than the living, the movie depicted her finding serenity among them. Then catastrophe hit. Her family took refuge in Jakarta. Her world became even more dismal as a result of this dislocation and loss of home. She would always carry the funeral home with its subdued melancholy inside of her. It was evident in her slow, ritualistic gestures and unwavering gaze on stage. She developed into an artist who used magic to transform fear. Riana hardly ever participated in activities or conversations as a child. She was described as unnervingly perceptive. She would observe from the corners. She pondered and posed concerns about life and death that grown-ups found incomprehensible. She found solace in ghost stories. She was drawn to cemeteries and dilapidated structures. She approached the darkness when other children fled from them. Her family was the first to notice. This was not a passing fad. She was this person. Horror served as an inspiration for Riana's stage persona. Her appearance was influenced by Sadako, the ghost from the Japanese movie Ringu. The white outfit, the long hair covering her face, and the quiet threat. Riana, however, contributed something fresh. She combined this terror with Darren Brown, Chris Angel, and David Copperfield's magic. She chilled people with terror as they glistened with awe. She didn't move at random. She spent hours honing them through training. The sluggish blink, the abrupt head twitch, and the rigid, puppet-like hands. Including the crooked-legged posture that gave the impression that she was a broken doll. It was all prearranged. She never spoke offstage and maintained the illusion for hours while playing her part. Riana the human and Riana the ghost started to blend together. Riana, her doll, became her best friend. The doll wasn't merely a prop, it was dressed like Riana and had a blank expression. She had a chunk of it. People argued over what Riana's statement, "Riani protects me," meant. According to some, the doll symbolized her lost youth. She once refused to perform until the doll was sent to her after it had been forgotten, even if it required sending someone across Jakarta at midnight. In a horrific universe she had created, the doll served as her fulcrum. Her voice, which was neither entirely infantile nor entirely mature, was even designed to evoke a faint, wavering whisper. To get it perfect, she practiced for months. On stage, every word she said was significant. People shivered at the mere sound of it. The way she obliterated her former self, however, was possibly the most terrifying aspect of her story. She cleared out her social media accounts. There were no further images, posts, or indications of Marie Antoinette Riana Graharani. Although Rihanna's friends were horrified, she felt it was essential. Rihanna had to be more than a fictional character, she had to be real. People were unsure for years whether she was a phantom or a real person. Her legend was cemented by this deletion. She lost a piece of herself in the process, but she became famous. Something memorable occurred on Indonesian television on November 17, 2013. Marie Antoinette Riana Graharani, a young woman, entered the stage of The Next Mentalist, a magic competition. She would eventually be referred to as the Sacred Riana. She appeared to have stepped out of a nightmare, with one knee bent, long, untidy hair covering her face, and a doll named Riani in her arms at all times. As she performed, millions of people gazed in disbelief, without saying a word, hardly moving, and maintaining that weird, spectral appearance. At first, no one had high expectations of her, but she proved them all wrong. She came in second place. For someone so new and with such an odd flair, it was amazing. People started chatting about her eerie, silent act. Did she possess a genuinely supernatural quality, or was she merely a magician? By the time the event ended, Rihanna had generated a lot of interest. Later, more than 70 million people watched her videos online. However, she did not have an easy time behind the scenes. Many people in the entertainment industry didn't want to work with her after her initial high-profile performance. Her act was deemed too frightening for families by the producers. She was not shown at all on several TV networks. They were concerned about complaints from parents and religious organizations. She was advised to improve her behavior or was dropped from at least 5 prominent shows. They hoped she would be less intimidating. They urged her to speak up more. They even advised her to apply makeup softer. Rihanna felt stuck. Her career appeared to be on the verge of ending before it had really begun. But she persisted rather than giving up. She grew more resolute the more she was turned away. She gradually gained the respect of many who had before questioned her. What made Rihanna's life so difficult was also her greatest strength. She would never compromise her morals. Not in interviews, not on stage, and not even backstage. Even when the cameras weren't rolling, she constantly pretended to be the revered Rihanna. Rather than speak, she whispered. She refused to make eye contact. She continued to twitch in an odd way. People found it difficult to collaborate with her because of this. She refused to respond directly, thus some directors were forced to write notes. Because she would either remain mute or just respond with one word, some interviewers gave up. Even her crew claimed that it seemed as though Marie had vanished and that she constantly transformed into the revered Rihanna. She deleted her true identity from public life and social media, attempting to maintain the mystery. Rihanna's life from 2013 to 2016 was anything but glamorous. She was having financial difficulties even as her name gained recognition. She frequently played for very little money at local shows or small parties. Keeping up her appearance was expensive. Her accessories, cosmetics, and costumes required ongoing attention. She occasionally had to decide between paying for necessities and spending money on her act. There were months when she earned hardly nothing, yet her family assisted when she was unemployed. She wouldn't alter her performance to obtain better employment because the Indonesian magic scene didn't pay well. One day, she thought, it might be worthwhile to be true to herself. Her existence became increasingly lonely as time passed. The distinction between Marie and the revered Rihanna became less clear. She never longer attended family gatherings. Outside of her performances, she hardly spoke. She seemed to have turned into a ghost, even to her closest friends. They compared it to attempting to contact someone who was no longer physically present. Rihanna had put her all into her role. Everyone was taken aback by the Sacred Rihanna's 2017 Asia's Got Talent audition. After airing in late 2017, it quickly gained popularity. She came across as a shaky, quiet girl. The majority of her face was hidden by her hair. The terror was increased by the ghostly doll she was holding. There was total quiet at the beginning of the play. Her movements were slow and eerie. the audience and judges were unable to turn away. She created bizarre illusions. One was a seemingly self-moving card trick. The end was the scariest part. Although she was pictured standing close to Judge Ongun, Ongun does not recall her presence. Ongun appeared frightened. She even retreated in terror. In just a few weeks, the audition was viewed by almost 70 million people on YouTube and Facebook. One of the most watched Got Talent auditions ever was this one. It was dubbed the scariest act in the history of the show by viewers. Videos of Ongun's actual dread went viral. The way Riana combined enchantment and horror captivated people worldwide. She wasn't the favorite going into the December 14, 2017, grand finale. Everyone predicted that the Filipino dancing crew DMX Convalinos would prevail. Their enthusiasm and talent had delighted the judges and spectators. It appeared that even judges David Foster and Jay Park wanted the Filipino team to win. Then, however, something unexpected occurred. The holy Riana prevailed. All of this was made possible via public votes. She received the $100,000 grand prize. As the first horror actor to win a major international talent contest, she created history. Her supporters had banded together. The final featured 3 Filipino performers. Although it appeared that the Philippines would win, Riana's triumph altered public perceptions of what a talent show winner could be. The crowd had made a bold and unique choice. The story was rendered even odd by what transpired behind the scenes. The judges were genuinely terrified by Riana's performances. The most affected was Ongun. She was consistently the target of Riana's attacks. She did eerie pranks and seances that were too real. Ongun was not faking her terror. Occasionally, she backed away or fled the stage. She later said that following the performance, she experienced nightmares. After each of Riana's performances, the crew would frequently joke that Ongun needed consolation. The fact that Riana never abandoned her persona added to the horror. She remained creepy and silent even when the cameras weren't rolling. Long after the acts ended, judges and crew were still apprehensive. Few people could forget the kind of fear that Riana had instilled. The world immediately took note. Her narrative was disseminated by the world's media within hours of her victory. Her social media following skyrocketed to millions. She was in high demand for bookings throughout the US, Europe, and Asia. She was eagerly anticipated by the event planners. She received invitations to major events and talk shows, and offers to appear in television shows and movies. Everywhere she went, according to her management, she remained true to herself. Fans were expecting the eerie girl they saw on TV, and she didn't want to let them down. She performed continually for months because of the enormous demand. She traveled to locations she had not been before. People all throughout the world were impacted by her blend of magic and terror. Sacred Riana's Season 13 audition was one of the scariest episodes in America's Got Talent ever. More than 84 million people watched it online because it was so dramatic. With her uncanny gaze, Sacred Riana entered the stage. She hugged her eerie doll, twitched, and remained silent. As she got closer to the judges' table, the atmosphere felt heavy. Everyone was watching Mel B. Riana began by displaying a newspaper clipping about a fatal fire. She then requested Mel B to select a murderer from a collection of pictures of victims. Riana snapped a Polaroid picture of herself when Mel B pointed to one. Mel B froze as the image developed. Bob, the alleged murderer, appeared as a ghostly apparition behind her in the picture. He appeared to be observing her from a different planet. The crowd let out a gasp. Mel B yelled in surprise. The picture became viral on the internet. There was debate on whether it was a camera trick or something more sinister. This was one of the scariest acts ever seen on primetime TV because of Riana's expressionless face and Mel B's obvious terror. Simon Cowell's response was what made it even more memorable. During Riana's performance, Simon, who was not usually afraid, smashed his red buzzer, but not because he detested it. His expression was one of sheer fear. The act continued to develop. The tension, the quiet, the Polaroid. Everyone was surprised by Simon's buzzer boom. Mel B. demanded to know why he did it. The audience was startled. It shook the other judges as well. Judges rarely buzz because they are afraid rather than bored. As the video went viral, admirers began analyzing Simon's every action to see whether or not he genuinely believed that something paranormal was taking place. Rihanna's creepy legend was only strengthened by this. On August 21, 2018, things became more bizarre during her performance in the quarterfinals. This time, Rihanna employed ghostly doubles and voodoo dolls. The focal point of it all was Mel B. Right in the middle of a scream, the TV broadcast abruptly cut to black as the deed intensified. At home, viewers gazed at their displays, perplexed. The adverts followed. Rihanna was absent when the show came back. The judges' remarks were strange and ambiguous. The blackout was not explained by anyone. Social media took off. Was there a technical issue? Censorship? Or something far more eerie? The reality was revealed a few days later. Producers arranged the blackout to create excitement and heighten the frightful atmosphere of the play. It was successful. The incident became the season's most talked about event. The question of what was produced and what was real kept fans wondering. Even more discomfort was created behind the scenes by Sacred Rihanna's presence. Some crew members hesitated to be alone with her during rehearsals because they thought she was so eerie. She never wavered from her character. She didn't say anything. Even after the cameras were off, she continued to be jittery and unsettling. When she was near, people muttered of unusual malfunctions and eerie goosebumps. The lights wavered. Equipment malfunctioned. If she was in the rehearsal facility, some employees simply wouldn't let her in. Rihanna irritated them more than anyone else, according to even seasoned AGT pros. Her legend only grew as a result of this backstage anxiety. However, it wasn't sufficient in the end. Sacred Rihanna lost in the quarterfinals on August 27, 2018. There weren't enough votes for her. Acts like the duo Transcend outperformed her. The fans were taken aback. It was viewed by many as a setback to the show itself. According to insiders, Rihanna was disillusioned and devastated. Audiences who weren't prepared for her brand of horror magic misjudged her. The revered Rihanna took to the big screen on March 14, 2019, after performing on the international stage. This wasn't your average horror movie. The Sacred Rihanna was the first America's Got Talent contestant to appear in their own film. The unsettling tale of her early years was told by beginning. In a small village, Rihanna's family owned a funeral home. They relocated to Jakarta after the accident. Rihanna discovered an odd doll there, which she called Riani. Her only buddy was the doll. She avoided everyone and stopped attending school because she held on to it so tenaciously. Unusual events began to occur. Things became terrible after her teacher came to visit. The audience was left unsure of what was real and what Rihanna was just thinking about. The movie debuted in Indonesia. It eventually made its way to Singapore and Malaysia. Rihanna became a regional horror icon as well as a local star because to the film. The Holy Rihanna 2, Bloody Mary, appeared on July 28, 2022. The terror was more intense this time. The narrative depicted Rihanna's frantic search for her misplaced doll in a haunting girls' dorm. The Van der Weyck Fortress in central Java, which has its own ghost stories, served as the filming location. There were more sophisticated special effects. The dread became more tangible. The most unsettling aspect, though, was how profoundly Rihanna was impacted by the role. On and off set, she consistently maintained her character. The crew and actors were concerned about her. They were concerned that the job was permanently altering her. The movie was a big hit. Her performance struck audiences in awe and filled cinemas. Following these movies, Rihanna faced a new task. She joined The Great Magician Show as a judge from December 2019 until March 2020. However, she continued to act in a creepy manner. She made her renown with her sluggish, rigid gestures and blank stare while she judged. She made minimal movements and spoke very little. The contestants experienced both fear and honor. They were unaware of the significance of her silence. The audience adored it. The ratings of the show increased. Everyone watched to see what she would do next. Riana continued. After that, on Spotify, she launched a podcast titled Kisa Horror, The Sacred Riana. It got popular. She related eerie stories about herself and the myths that influenced her. She was whispering ghost stories into their ears, according to fans. Long after each episode concluded, the podcast continued to evoke unease in listeners. It was recognized as one of the best horror podcasts in Indonesia. Riana brought her live performance, Conjuring Live, to Kuala Lumpur in July 2023. The plenary hall was packed with more than 2,500 people. Items that formerly belonged to their deceased loved ones were requested to be brought. These were the things she employed to create her illusions. The tickets, which ranged in price from RM288 to RM688, quickly sold out. She performed the same show in Singapore Star Theatre in December. Every seat was occupied. A 12-part trip of life after death was presented to the audience. It was more than just a show. People began to doubt their beliefs about the spirit realm as a result. However, Riana was having difficulties despite her celebrity. By 2019, she was unable to distinguish sacred Riana's boundaries. And her true self, Marie, started. It was dubbed dissociative identity tension by doctors. She was sacred Riana every single day. She no longer went by her given name. She used the third person while describing herself. Her friends and relatives became concerned. She was becoming disconnected from her true self. She had worn her theatrical mask for so long that it had become a part of her, according to one doctor. In August 2023, everything fell apart for her. Her granddad suffered a stroke and passed away unexpectedly. The last person to still call her Marie was him. She was a young girl who liked magic, he recalled. She was deeply affected by his passing. For the remainder of the year, she cancelled her performances. She shut her flat door and locked herself in. Her favorite doll was no longer able to console her. She ceased talking. She had no desire to perform. The slender barrier separating the pious Riana from the girl she once was ripped down by the tragedy. She suffered a complete breakdown by October. She ceased to speak and hardly moved. She received assistance from her colleagues. In the countryside, she checked herself into a private wellness clinic. Her whereabouts were unknown to her fans. She sat quietly in the clinic, gazing at her reflection while clutching her doll. She appeared disoriented, looking for the girl she used to be. She took a while to recuperate. For the first time in years, the clinic assisted her in removing the makeup and costume. It was liberating as well as depressing. In treatment, she employed magic tricks to rekindle her previous sense of joy. After doing a basic card trick for another patient in December, she shed tears and smiled. She was stronger when she left the facility in January 2024, but she was still confused about her true identity. The revered Riana was already well known throughout the world. She appeared on the stage of Britain's Got Talent, The Winners, on August 31, 2019. The entire globe was observing. This was the same talent who frightened millions of people on America's Got Talent in 2018 and won Asia's Got Talent in 2017. Over 70 million people had seen her performances online. It was anticipated that her spooky spell would silence judges once more. But everyone was taken aback by what transpired. In the first round, she was eliminated. She didn't advance despite her enormous fan base and notoriety. The fans were taken aback. The critics were perplexed. The audience and judges appeared unimpressed. Perhaps they had desired something fresh and distinctive. Her downfall on the international talent show stage began that evening. She was once referred to as the most eerie performer in Got Talent's history. However, her early departure now serves as a reminder of how swiftly notoriety may wane. In January 2023, Rihanna attempted to return. She went back to All Stars, America's Got Talent. Only 60 artists were invited back out of thousands. Her influence was evident from that alone. More than 84 million people viewed her initial audition in 2018. She was unforgettable, according to Simon Cowell himself, but history was repeated. In the first round, she was eliminated. Howie Mandel acknowledged that throughout her performance, he was genuinely afraid. However, dread was insufficient. It appeared that the assessors were looking for more than dread. The magic that had seemed new now appeared old. It was evident from her elimination. Both the industry and the public had changed. She once again discovered that viral popularity is short-lived. Rihanna visited France in the fall of 2022. She participated in season 17 of La France, An Unstoppable Talent. She made it to the semi-finals this time. A significant victory in a nation with a reputation for harsh judges. Marianne James, one judge, was taken aback. She was hailed by the French press as exceptional. Even in France, her eerie illusions continued to captivate people. She hadn't been around as much. It was still a mystery. It demonstrated something significant. In one location, something that seems outdated may nevertheless feel fresh. She had an appearance on Italia's Got Talent in September 2023. The Disney Plus version was this one. Intended for a younger audience. However, things didn't go well. She failed the selection process altogether. Her once powerful behavior now appeared foreseeable. Italian viewers who knew her from social media did not find her impressive. It was an agonizing moment. She didn't pique curiosity in a nation that enjoys magic and drama. It felt normal now, the behavior that used to make judges shout. The entertainment industry had changed. And then she returned. She made her theatrical comeback in Australia in February 2024. She played the religious Rihanna in Perth by herself from February 2 to February 18. She had never performed in Australia before. Every one of the 11 shows was sold out. Within days, every ticket was sold out. The magical ballroom was full with both new and old fans. Some others left the event in the middle because they couldn't manage the intense tension in the room. This was not merely a return. It was a new beginning. Her social media accounts came back to life. She provided snippets of the shows and behind-the-scenes photos. She demonstrated her ability to command a room during the Perth run. No one could still frighten an audience like her. However, something had changed. Scaring people was no longer the exclusive goal of her presentation. It conveyed an intimate tale. Through her delusions, Rihanna started to investigate loss, grief, and celebrity. She posed a terrifying query. What occurs if you are the ghost you fear? Now, her magic blended intense feeling with dread. In her performances, she even used objects that the audience had provided. Because of this, each show was distinct and intimate. She revealed aspects of herself that she had never previously displayed. Audiences were taken aback by this new course. It also changed the definition of a magic show. The stage has turned into more than just a job for Rihanna. It was how she managed to live. She implied in interviews that she felt more human after performing. The 2024 shows were honest and unvarnished. People could see her frailty beneath the terror. Every action felt like a discharge of emotions. She made the audience and herself confront hard realities. Her performances evolved into a place where healing and dread coexisted. It was more than just entertainment for those who witnessed her live. It demonstrated the resilience of the human spirit and the therapeutic value of art.